curious, how would you describe, thinking about institutions specifically, I want more Fidelities of the world involved. How would you describe the sentiment that you're seeing, whether in your client base that's maybe considering, adopting a digital asset product, or even internally within your own firm? You mentioned, traditionally it's been one or two people leading the digital asset effort. Has that changed at all?
Yeah, there's no shortage of excitement. I think people are excited to finally be able to bring to life what they've been working on for years. It's been a lot of behind the scenes work, and now people are finally allowed to be public about some of this stuff. And that's even happening at the large financial institutions, or it's especially happening at the large financial institutions. When you look at the news that's happened just this past week, right, or just this past year, it's really hard to follow all the news because there's so much happening. Yesterday or the day before, a private credit fund was launched on Solana by a large financial institution. Ether ETFs finally went live after much discussion yesterday. Bitcoin ETFs earlier this year, Bitcoin was up 85%. I don't know the exact percent today, but like all of these things are happening. It's impossible to keep up with all the news that's now becoming public. This has been happening for years upon years. So there's a buildup, and even a large bank like Citi, and I can say this because of some of the things that this has become public, and we're allowed to talk about this now. We worked with them on a use case around payments, where they can facilitate cross-border payments internally at Citi for their clients and move money at a much faster, cheaper rate than previously done. When I say things take time, that took multiple months, over half a year to get that approved to move it forward. So there's a lot there that you'll see come to fruition over the next 9 months, and I think I'm excited. I know they're excited. I think just everyone is excited, right? There's retail investors are excited as well. But I'm not saying it's all going to happen overnight. But it's coming. So and it really will change the fabric of financial services.
That, ladies and gentlemen, was a clip of a PwC rep talking about what he believes is upon us, and what is upon us truly is a embrace of a technology, in this case being crypto, distributed ledger technology, that is fundamentally going to change the world. It's not every day that the entire financial system gets an overhaul, and that is truly what we are looking at. Of course, distributed ledgers don't just stop when it comes to the world of finance. They impact many, many sectors out there and are fundamentally going to change things in a similar way to what the internet did. And we are lucky enough to be investors at an early stage before the real adoption has taken place in some of these technologies. And of course, every single day we keep you up to date as much as we can, because our time is becoming ever more limited on some of the projects we think are going to do well. So it's Monday. It's always good to start things off with a nice bullish clip like that. We've got a hell of a lot to get into. Actually, today, what we're going to be doing, and we're just going to get right into it, is talking about the stock market a little bit. And I'm doing that because it's a very heavy week of economic data. You can see that this is the week we have lined up ahead of us. There's lots of kind of S&P servicing PMIs, as PMIs broadly for the US. Obviously, we have non-farm payroll on Friday. On Wednesday, we've got what I believe is going to be a big one, and we'll likely stream it. So do show up at 7 p.m. I think it's Eastern, is it? Or Washington time for the FOMC minutes. This is where Jerome Powell is going to outline his kind of forward guidance for what he's going to do as it relates to monetary policy, the economy, from, of course, the Central Bank of the United States, which is the central bank really to watch more closely than perhaps others. And then there's non-farm payroll, which, of course, is going to be a very dollar-dominated story. So this week's going to be a spectacular one for data. I actually think it's going to be a great week. And what I want to do is actually just talk about the stock market. And while we're talking about the stock market, Allin, why are you talking about the stock market? Well, we've made lots of predictions that have came very true on the stock market. And the stock market really needs to be doing well, in my opinion, for crypto to be doing well also, as there's a correlation here due to largely global liquidity, which, of course, is manipulated entirely by central banks. They are the facet, if you will, or faucet, if you will, that liquidity comes out of in the form of money creation, debt creation, and a number of other things. And there's a kind of problem with the debt markets right now in the sense that nobody's buying them, or nobody's buying the debt markets. And the question is, how low can debt go before they actually step back in? So it's going to be interesting to see what Jerome Powell has to say. We're looking at the stock market, and we're looking at the stock market through the lens of, okay, well, how's this going to affect the cryptocurrency space? If we start to see troubling signs, and this is the benefit of being a cross-market analyst, in the stock market, well, you can actually derive that there's troubling signs likely coming for the cryptocurrency space. And I'm pleased to say, ladies and gentlemen, We do not see evidence for that. This is the S&P 500. Those of you that have followed me for any length of time will know that we were looking at this in this kind of accumulative stage, in much the same way that we're looking at altcoins now. And we said, okay, this is a breakout. You got the retest, and then we expected phase 2 continuation to take place. And we still have higher technical targets for this. A lot of the targets that we had, certainly back in 2023, and all broadly generated in 2023, have actually been met. The first inverse head and shoulders, the broader inverse head and shoulders target was perfectly met before a sell-off. And then we've got what could be some sort of a cup and handle or a mini sort of taking of all-time highs that actually could lead us to project the S&P to 6,500. And actually we were predicting 6,114, which did indeed get hit. And that was a long time ago. And we ultimately think the S&P is a great blueprint for what the cryptocurrency space has ahead of it. And I want to show you that through the lens of perhaps Ethereum, which I do not believe is going to be one of the best performing cryptocurrencies. That's just my own opinion. I know some of you may hold Ethereum. Don't hate me for that. That's just my own technical assessment as a technical analyst. The markets are made of millions of participants. Not all of us will agree, but you can see what it is. And let's change the color of this that I'm highlighting. So this is a worthy exercise to do, because really, if we think the stock market is in good standing, which we do, and we're going to show you some of the largest stocks that make up the S&P, show you we actually have higher targets for many of these stocks. Tesla very nearly made that doubling target that we gave a few months ago, obviously pre-election. We knew something was coming for Tesla. We actually said the markets are really predicting to us that Trump's likely to win, and of course he did. Markets can be a great predictive mechanism. But really something like Ethereum still has this big long uptrend akin to what the S&P has gone through ahead of it. And if the S&P is going to continue to go up, you can see the similarities here. Markets moving how we like to define them in phases. If you guys want to become a Patreon, now is a great time to do so. Do go and catch up on yesterday's meeting. It was a good one. You'll be sleeping very well as a cryptocurrency investor after watching that. Of course, I share my portfolio and various other things. But in order for crypto to do well, the general environment has to do well. In a kind of recessionary, crashing environment, despite Bitcoin being made to be counter the financial system, we need to be kind of in step with it. It needs to be a generally positive environment. And I think when you look at the S&P 500, I'm even looking at EU sort of ETFs and baskets now that actually look quite good. There is a positive road ahead of us. And if you look at some of the biggest stocks that actually make up the S&P, like Nvidia, showing the fact that this is in a strong uptrend with a concession of higher highs and higher lows, and that hasn't been invalidated yet. We do have a small pattern for Nvidia that takes it to 184 that we gave. I think this was actually going into a few FOMCs ago, a couple of months ago. But you can see how this has progressed. You can see very clearly what phase it's in. Technical targets for this have been made. We've got a small technical continuation pattern that's ultimately going to take it higher, which means Nvidia and, of course, the S&P are likely going to go up. Also, Tesla, that small inverse head and shoulders pattern that we highlighted, you were a whisker away from your target. Of course, we were giving this in the sort of 200 region. And there is actually a broader target I have for Tesla, taking you right up to the $891 sort of range. So the stock market very likely to do very well, in my opinion. Obviously, Amazon, we've got that inverse head and shoulders again, $120 we gave this at. Today it's at $224, so you've done very well. And actually, we're still off of our 261 price prediction that we gave a while ago. But there is a small continuation pattern that I think is actually going to see you get certainly to 248 and then see that continuation. These are some of the largest stocks that make up the S&P 500. In fact, the S&P 500 is heavily weighted towards these stocks, and a lot of the returns have came from them. And ultimately, we're seeing positive signs in Nvidia. We've got a continuation pattern. We've got multiple big patterns that still need to be made for Tesla. We've got Amazon. There's Google. There's a small inverse head and shoulders here. That target was met, but this is looking likely for continuation. Of course, we've got that cup and handle pattern taking it to 273. Then we've got the likes of Microsoft. We've still got this continuation pattern here, or this cup and handle all-time high resistance pattern that takes it to 575. Of course, there could be continuation here, and this is just a retest. And then we've got the likes of the sort of smaller stock market sector that we looked at, and we used Stan Druckenmiller's significance, or the move that Stan Druckenmiller made in regards to getting actually back into moving from Nvidia down to the IWM, because that's a bet on the economy generally. And we've said, actually, we're taking that bet with altcoins. And there's a kind of S&P, Bitcoin, altcoins, IWM, Russell 2000 kind of play going on there. But this is very clearly an uptrend as well. So the reason I'm highlighting all this, of course, is because this is significant, certainly when it relates to Bitcoin. And when we look at Bitcoin divided by the S&P 500, yesterday we looked at the total cryptocurrency market caps, well worth a watch, and why actually I believe that's going to take us certainly into the $10 trillion as an overall market. But when we divide Bitcoin by the S&P 500, what you can see is that it's in a clear uptrend, and there's going to be continuation for that. It's going to gain ground against it, which ultimately means both assets will be going up. Because it's my opinion that if the S&P 500 was going to crash, which we don't think it is going to, actually Bitcoin would lose ground against it as a higher beta asset that would sell off more significantly. So I think this is important to sort of go through, certainly on the context of what is a very heavy week of economic data. Of course, as cryptocurrency investors, our main focus is the cryptocurrency space, but you can get some sort of clarity on what's likely going to happen with the cryptocurrency space through the lens of the stock market. And that's really something unique that we do here as a channel, is 360 analysis. We look at the whole picture and we try and work out what asset is best for us to be in. If I thought we were going to make more money in the stock market, and there's some great stocks out there, we've highlighted many of them, then we would do so. In fact, I think in regards to the 4 stocks that I hold, which you'll unlock when you become a Patreon, obviously Coinbase you will know about vocally, that's 200% up for us, multiple 100% up stocks. I've got one that's a little bit, I'm 5% down on, but actually that's a great time for you guys to essentially get in and gobble it up if you are looking to add crypto-related stocks to your portfolio. So this was a bit of a different one, guys. The reason I'm highlighting this is because ultimately, we've given all these predictions for Bitcoin, the total market caps, ETPs, et cetera, and they all look really good. Technically, we look very sound, and we've put our best foot forward at the start of this year to bring all that technical analysis to you, to kind of highlight what we think's ahead. But actually, when we look at the stock market, it also looks good. We've got lots of small continuation patterns. Ultimately, we're highlighting this because you're going to get a little bit of volatility. I think it's going to be more positive than negative on the back end of the week that we've got ahead of us. But it aligns with generally where we think the crypto space is going, and Bitcoin and crypto more broadly. Bitcoin's going to outperform the S&P 500. Bitcoin dominance likely to roll. Altcoin season incoming, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we wanted to start with that video of a rep from PwC talking about actually, and it's very interesting, there's been lots of work in the background behind closed doors because of the regulatory nightmare that I think was actually deliberate in the US. Now with the breaking of that down, you're going to see the coming to life of this industry. And we're positioned, we're ready for it. I'm so excited. I'm very happy to be on that journey with each and every one of you. Have a magical Monday, guys. Enjoy King's Day, if of course you are religious and celebrating it. For the Catholics out there, that's it from me, guys. See you soon.